Let's talk about credibility for a second. Do you think somebody who has been convicted of sex trafficking minors has any? Let's put it another way. If the person who is serving a very long prison sentence for having been found guilty of sex trafficking minors and for being the accomplice and co conspirator of notorious and grotesque rapist and sexual trafficker of girls and young women, if that person suddenly shared some information with the quite egregious Deputy Attorney General of the United States that ends the scandal by claiming that Donald Trump knew nothing about what a horrible human being Jeffrey Epstein was. They were just golf buddies. They just like to party together. Now, if that person exonerates Donald completely and then is given a reduced sentence or even, which would be a horror beyond comprehension, a pardon, then what we think not just about her credibility, because of course I'm talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, monster, but the motives of everybody at the upper echelons of the DOJ and the man at the very scandal who is actually continuing to perpetuate the scandal and who actually thinks that getting a convicted sex trafficker of minors to clear his name is actually going to work. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. Yes, it is Friday. I know it doesn't really mean anything anymore, but it still sounds good, doesn't it? Okay, so as inferred, Donald really wants to get out from under this Epstein scandal. In fact, he wants it to disappear entirely. And since it's not, he thinks that by fleeing the country, everybody's going to forget about it. You know, he's sort of like a toddler who hasn't learned object permanence. If I can't see you, you can't see me, you know, that kind of thing. But even thousands of miles away in Scotland, a country that hates him, this Jeffrey Epstein scandal and the fact of Donald's long-standing relationship with Epstein is still haunting him. It was one of the first things he was asked about when he stepped off the plane in Scotland, fielding questions about a potential pardon for Epstein's longtime partner and co-conspirator, convicted, the criminal and evil person, Ghislaine Maxwell. Take a look at the distractions he tried to throw at the press in response.
I really have really nothing to say about it. She is being talked to by a very smart man, by a very good man, Todd Blanche. And I don't know anything about the conversation. I haven't really been following it. A lot of people are asking me about pardons. Obviously, this is no time to be talking about pardons. But a lot of people have asked about pardon. This is just not a time to be talking about pardons. Todd will come back with whatever he's got. You're making a very big thing over something that's not a big thing. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton, talk about the former president of Harvard, talk about all of his friends, talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him all the time. Don't talk about Trump. What you should be talking about is the fact that we have the greatest 6 months in the history of a presidency, according to a lot of people. And we had an amazing 6 months, and this is sort of an example of it.
If by amazing you mean horrifying, I agree with you. And according to a lot of people, I think the better way of putting that is according to the voices in his head. Okay, also, quick aside, if Donald Trump refers to you as being smart and good, my condolences. Yeah, I'm sure that Donald knows absolutely nothing about what's going on in those conversations between his lackey and lickspittle, Todd Blanche and Galena Maxwell. Just like we're supposed to believe that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, never told Donald back in May that his name appeared several times in the Epstein files. So, on that note, Donald was asked directly if he'd been briefed on the files. And you're not going to believe what happened next. Take a look.
No, I was never briefed. No.
Sure. We believe you because you always tell the truth. No, well, obviously, he never tells the truth. And in this instance, he's been lying to our faces for months. And worse for him, although ultimately potentially good for us, he's been lying to his supporters about all of this for about a decade. The lies currently are that he had no inside knowledge about the Epstein file, when in fact he was in fact told by the person who would know that his name appears in them several times. I'm just going to keep repeating that. Donald Trump's name appears in the Epstein files several times, according to the Attorney General of the United States. It is so obvious that Donald has something to hide here, because as he's facing pressure abroad as well as here, Maxwell's lawyers seem increasingly convinced that Donald may indeed pardon this hideous convicted criminal, a woman again, who was convicted of sex trafficking of minors. Today marks his second day. The DOJ questioned Maxwell, and just like let's talk about something that's worth pointing out here. The conversation was had by the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. That is not what Deputy Attorney Generals do. They don't go around interviewing witnesses or convicted criminals. Her lawyer, David Marcus, briefed the press on the meeting after the fact. So take a look at this.
Ghislaine answered every single question asked of her over the last day and a half. She answered those questions honestly, truthfully, to the best of her ability. She never invoked a privilege. She never refused to answer a question. This was the first opportunity she's ever been given to answer questions about what happened. And so the truth will come out about what happened with Mr. Epstein, and she's the person who's answering those questions. President Trump is the ultimate deal maker. He knows that a promise made on behalf of the government should bind the government, and so we're hoping the Supreme Court agrees with us that when the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of Florida promised that no potential co-conspirators would be prosecuted, that bound the Southern District of New York as well.
Master dealmaker, that's the tell. That means that Maxwell knows, sorry, not Maxwell, her attorney knows that if they play their cards right, Maxwell could indeed get out of prison despite the horrific crimes of which he was committed. And I want to put an end to this bullshit narrative we keep hearing. This is the first opportunity she's had. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many times that woman was questioned? Do you know how many times they probably tried to get a deal with her to get her to roll over on Jeffrey Epstein, her partner in crime, her co-conspirator? Do you know how many times she was given the opportunity to tell the truth, to give them viable information that could indeed have led to discovering other people who may have been involved in what may well have been a conspiracy? So the idea that this is the first opportunity she's ever been given is so infuriating, because on top of all of that, she had a trial. She had a whole trial in which she was allowed to call witnesses. She could have taken the stand in her own defense. So that cannot be allowed to stand. Now, these discussions come as Maxwell rather, is continuing to appeal her sentence with the United States Supreme Court, which is, I'm not entirely sure why that's a thing. This is the kind of case the Supreme Court would hear, except, of course, the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority in the Supreme Court is full of surprises. Just this morning on the way to Scotland, Donald re-emphasized to the press that he has the ability to pardon Maxwell if he wants to, which sort of begs the question, then why pretend that it's not the time to talk about pardons if you keep talking about pardons? I can only imagine, not that I want to, the deal that Donald and the DOJ might be trying to cut in exchange for Maxwell's clearing his name. And again, as I said at the top of the show, that would carry no credibility whatsoever. In fact, if that happens, if some version of that happens, then as far as I'm concerned, it's a done deal, and Donald may as well have confessed. I understand that, black is white, up is down. Nothing makes sense anymore. But on the one hand, we have MAGA people, QAnon people, who are just horrific misogynists and don't seem to care at all about children, up in arms because they wanted Donald to get to the bottom of this alleged Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy and hold to account those Donald promised them were involved. Basically, everybody in the Democratic Party, right? And now their guy is getting closer and closer and closer, and is at least considering pardoning a convicted sex trafficker so she, in his mind, can clear his name. It's a little hard to keep this straight in our heads, isn't it? So, are any Republicans in office ever going to call for Donald? I mean, will the party in general? I mean, there have been individuals asking him, calling on him to release the Epstein files, but will a critical mass of Republicans do so? We know that they can turn the heat up on him when they want to. Just this afternoon, under pressure from his own caucus, Donald has been forced to agree to release $5.5 billion in frozen education funds, bringing an end to a chaotic saga that had school districts unsure of their future with just weeks to go before the school year starts up again. Donald had previously withheld these funds, saying they were being grossly misused. Like, how would he even know? But he was facing growing bipartisan pressure, including from 10 Senate Republicans who signed a rare public letter on July 16th urging Donald to release the funds. Less than 10 days later, the letter, which included names such as Senators Mitch McConnell and Jim Justice, he finally caved because, what is that? DeTaco. Remember, I know the D is silent, but I also emphasize it just because you forget that. Donald Trump always caves. Sorry, Donald Trump always chickens out. The Times reports that the money includes more than $2 billion to help train and recruit teachers. What a waste. Can you imagine the audacity of parents wanting their teachers properly trained and recruited? Oh, and yes, especially in low-income areas, which is where most of that funding would go. It also includes money for arts and music education in low-income districts. Extra help for children learning English, and support for children of migrant farm workers. So it all makes sense now why Donald and his allies think that money is wasted. So, luckily, enough Republicans understood not how wrong it was, because I don't think they care either, but how this could have backfired on them, given the fact that many of those impacted by those cuts were likely, or some of them anyway, were their constituents. getting bossed around by his own party is not something Donald's used to. You know, he doesn't like anybody saying no to him. He feels like he's the king and he should always get his way. And it seems to have put him in a bit of a bad. I think everything is putting him in a bad mood recently, which is great. To the extent that it just means he's miserable. But he always has someone he can take out his frustrations on, because when it comes to this kind of thing, he's pretty creative. Is there trouble brewing between Donald and one of his corrupt buddies? Let's take a look at NBC New York coverage of a new action the DOJ is taking against corrupt, criminal New York City Mayor Eric Adams and the city.
The Department of Justice is suing New York City and Mayor Eric Adams for continuing to obstruct law enforcement with sanctuary city policies. If New York's leaders won't step up to protect their citizens, we will. The lawsuit filed in the Eastern District today cites the shooting of an off-duty customs officer in Fort Washington Park earlier this week, as you mentioned, Adam and Gilma, allegedly by two undocumented immigrants with a long rap sheet. The suit claims that the city's Department of Correction released one of those men, ignoring an immigration detainer that had been sent by ICE back in April.
Not that we needed any more evidence of this, but the Justice Department is no longer an independent agency. It exists solely to do the bidding of Donald Trump. And now the DOJ is accusing New York of not cooperating with federal immigration enforcement. The lawsuit also claims that by refusing to play ball with ICE, as the city should, including declining to honor detainer requests and barring ICE from Rikers Island, the city has enabled the release of undocumented immigrants with criminal records. Now, as I mentioned, Donald is also taking aim at Eric Adams, which is kind of surprising because, as the New York Times explains, quote, Mr. Adams, a Democrat, had for months publicly aligned himself with Donald on many immigration issues as he lobbied the federal government to drop corruption charges against him. The partnership began to sour publicly this week after Donald's top immigration officials showed up in New York City on Monday to criticize Mr. Adams and the city's sanctuary laws. After the shooting of an off-duty customs officer in Manhattan, two men arrested in connection to the shooting were from the Dominican Republic and entered the country illegally and had criminal records, federal officials said, unquote. Well, I mean, if Donald's federal officials are saying that, I'm going to take that with several tons of salt, actually. Now, Adams is running for re-election without his party's backing because he is basically no longer a Democrat. He has betrayed his party just as he has betrayed the people of his city. On the one hand, he is under fire from New Yorkers for allying himself with Donald. On the other hand, the Trump regime is painting Adams as being soft on crime. Meanwhile, immigration advocates rightly see this lawsuit as a blatant assault against local control and basic human rights, which we here in New York actually care a lot about, which is why we reject Donald utterly. Now, could caving once again, could caving to Donald and aligning himself with him have helped Adams in the short term, but hurt him in the long run? Now, this is right out of Donald's playbook, right? Punish the cities that didn't vote for him and choose to uphold moral values that he despises. So, Adams is certainly no better than the man to whom he owes his freedom. So let's not pretend otherwise. But we're in a situation here where we need a mayor in this city who is not beholden to anybody else and who is willing to do his job, do what the New Yorkers want him to do, which is protect New York's status as a sanctuary city and protect our undocumented workers. So he's kind of between a rock and a hard place, poor guy. Either keep doing Donald's bidding and completely blow your shot at re-election. By the way, he has no shot at re-election, but he clearly thinks he does because he's a narcissist. Or stand up and do what's right for New York. I mean, he'll still lose, but that would be a much, much, much better outcome. Now, New York City may not be playing ball with Donald right now, but other people have found a really good reason to get on the field. How's that for a segue? We're going to find out. So it is time, because it's been a week, hasn't it? Yeah, I know. We could say that every day, every Friday, every day feels like Sunday or Monday or I don't know. It's a little confusing. So we really need this one. So the first thing we're going to do is breathe. Cleansing yoga breath, perhaps. Ocean breathing. Whatever works for you. In honor of the fact that we made it to Friday, I want to watch for our ESM this story from NBC News.
When the Peoria Chiefs wrapped up their final inning one recent July night, fans had no idea what they were about to see. As the team invited the crowd to run the bases, one grandpa had an idea.
I was with my whole family, and I said, I'd kind of like to do that.
85-year-old Tom Persich, bouncing back from a hip replacement, took to the field.
When you started running the bases, what do you remember thinking?
I'm thinking, I don't want to pass up this moment. I feel like a kid again. I really did.
Right by his side, his grandson, pushing him along.
I was just trying to make sure that he wasn't going to end up on the ground. All I could think was my grandma, Minnie, was going to be very upset if that man ended up on the dirt somehow.
Tom took his time, but didn't give up. You see, for this former paratrooper, taking risks and challenging yourself has always been a part of his life. From raising kids, grandkids, and now 9 great-grandkids, Tom, who has been known to still dance on chairs at weddings, lives his life like he wants to.
If I rest, I rust. I try to keep in shape and enjoy every moment.
Back on the diamond, Tom was the last to finish, but everyone stayed to watch and cheer as this grandpa made it all the way home.
All right. That's my new goal for when I turn 83, except I'm going to Citi Fields because, Mets. Awesome. All right. Let's get to your questions, comments, etc. All right, Mary, we have a new member. Welcome. It is great to have you here, and thank you. Gordy and Not, thank you very much for that. Priming the pump. Love it. Pump priming is an important thing, especially if you have a well. But that's being a little literal-minded. Minor Cheryl, thank you so much. As always, gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Excellent. And look who's back. Minor Cheryl, thank you so much. Thank God it's Friday. It's another kitten weekend fee. Oh, that's so awesome. I need to be in one place for more than 5 minutes before we can get the Mary Trump Media kitten, travel kitten. All right, working on it. Midas Mel, super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Excellent. Francie gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you, Francie. That is wonderful. And we have another new member, Martha. Welcome and thank you. Susan, thank you very much for that. Comment. May Donald be kicked out of Scotland and sent to El Salvador's gulag. Wouldn't that be a shame? I'd prefer the Hague. Orange jumpsuit, leg irons. Yeah. Justice, actually. Mary, thank you so very, very much for that comment. Thanks to Mary, mods, and team. Awesome. Ethan, thank you as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Fabulous. Dodie, thank you as always. Comment. Thanks for providing a chuckle by showing Donald's entertaining clip, which is pure theater of the absurd. Yeah. Yes. If only he were doing it on purpose. By which I mean to be entertaining. Ronald, thank you so much. Elaine, super sticker, thank you as always. That's great. His Divine Scadu, thank you as always. Comment, just a reminder, the people turning on Donald now are still horrible people. The fact that it had to be such a heinous crime for them to change their mind says it all. Yeah, I am right there with you. The things, because remember, it's not just that, but there are still all the other things they're overlooking or totally okay with, like treason and killing 1 million people with COVID and kidnapping children and putting them in concentration camp, little things like that. They're totally fine with that. Cindy, thank you as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Fabulous. Be best, LOL. Thank you for that. Comment, glad you feel better. Thank you. Me too. I'm a little sleepy, but yeah, I'm going to take a little bit easier this weekend. I hope all of you do too. Barry, comment. I've been hearing today that some newspapers in Scotland are referring to Donald as a felon. Yes, in fact, I don't remember which paper it was. I apologize. But a local paper, I think. The headline, I'm paraphrasing. The headline was something like convicted felon from America visit Scotland. It was along those lines. So yeah. Donna, wow, Donna, thank you as always. That is just amazing and very generous. Comment. Hi, Mary. I cannot believe these predictors, regardless of political affiliation, are going to get away with this horrible action. I know how the people who were sexually abused feel. I've been in this situation, unfortunately, never have gotten over it. Yeah, Donna, and one, I'm terribly sorry. And two, the truth of the matter is that a very large percentage of women have been in similar situations. It's like epidemic, practically. So, I actually made a video about this a couple days ago, just about how this should anyway force us to reckon with the massive amounts of misogyny that have always run through this country's history. I mean, it's similar with racism. We've never acknowledged it, let alone atoned for it. So things just keep getting worse. The fact that an adjudicated rapist was put back into the White House is something that I mean, think about what that does to his victims, to people, women who've credibly accused him, and to the, and imagine what this is all doing to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's hundreds of victims right now. Leanne, super sticker. Thanks so very much, Leanne. Linda, new member, welcome. It's excellent to have you here. Meg, thank you very much. That's really generous of you. Much appreciated. Betty Loco, super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Chris, I don't have a family relationship anymore because they are conservatives and I'm a Democrat that happens also to be a disabled Iraq war veteran. They voted to neglect this war moment. Yeah, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine how awful that must be, to be a member of a group that is directly targeted by Donald and by the Trump regime's policies, and have so many people continue to support that while pretending to support veterans. It must be awful, and I know it's maddening. So sorry. Mindy, thank you very much. Comment, my cat has cat COVID fee. I hope that's not true. I tell you, I don't know to the extent that this is prevalent, but when COVID first became a thing, we learned that cats there was human to feline transfer. I don't think that was the case with dogs. So when I got COVID, I was really worried about my cats. They're fine, but yeah, it's a thing. So I hope your cat doesn't actually have COVID, and if so, it's a mild case, and might be hard to tell with cats because they sleep so much anyway. Anyway, I hope they're okay. D-Bid, Canadian in the house, elbows up. Thank you so much for that. Question: what will it take, Mary, to bring the regime down? I don't know that there's anything, quite frankly. I think at the moment, well, Democrats have to win by massive numbers in 2026. Absolutely. And, well, we can hope that somehow it will shorten Donald's tenure. But J.D. Vance becomes president. And so much has already been put in place that doesn't require Donald Trump anymore. I've been saying this for quite a while, but it's increasingly true. He's not the problem anymore. He is not the problem anymore. Do you seriously think that J.D. Vance, if it were going to protect him, would not pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? I mean, he would definitely pardon Donald Trump. Not that that's necessary, because Donald Trump is above the law. Zelda. Czar. I don't know what that. I love learning new currencies. So thank you very much for that. That's awesome. I can't wait to find out what it is. KH super sticker. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And we're going to end with Susan, our excellent moderator. Thank you, Susan, as always. The comment, thank you to Mary and team. It was a heck of a breaking news week. Wasn't it just? Wasn't it just? I hope everybody gets to take the weekend off and just kind of pretend that there's still such a thing as weekends. I don't know. But to everybody watching on YouTube, to everybody streaming on Twitter and on my Substack, The Good in Us, to everybody listening to the podcast, thank you so very much. To all of our new members, to everybody gifting new memberships, to our super stickers, to people giving us gifts. We so appreciate all of you, and you really do keep us afloat. And we're trying really hard to grow. And I think that's getting more and more important as things get crazier. To our amazing moderators, all of them, you guys do such phenomenal work for us. It's thankless work, but we are very grateful to you. And to my amazing team who dealt with not just an insane news week, but my travel schedule, which always throws a wrench at things. So as always, for being so flexible and so accommodating and so patient, I appreciate all of you so much. And I hope everybody in the comments appreciates them too. All right, that does it for us. I will be back on Sunday for Ask Mary Anything Within Reason. I am traveling all next week, but I will will pretty much have the regular schedule. If that changes, we will keep you posted. And don't forget, please, the easiest way to support us is to subscribe to the channel. We're I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but we're getting really close to 500,000 subscribers. That would be huge for us. So that's so easy. Just subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. Also, we release videos every day, like the one I mentioned before about misogyny in my family as it relates to American history, etc. If you check out those videos, watch them, like them, share them, comment on them, that really helps us a lot too. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go and I'm going to head out. I will see you Sunday. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind. Good night.